What is going on? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. Now, this video today is for prospective students and families of prospective students, and it is also for higher education professionals. Because a few days ago, I had the opportunity to watch a webinar hosted by the Chronicle of Higher Education that featured a student panel consisting of high school seniors, and they were asked about their experiences with the college admissions process. And they had some very good feedback, both for higher education professionals and prospective students. And so of the myriad of questions, there were a few good ones that I'm going to highlight on, as well as some of the responses. And one question in particular is the students were asked what part of the admissions process was the most tedious to you, or what was the most confusing. And one response that stood out to me is that one student in particular was talking about in some of his applications, he was asked to select a major. And he didn't know if that was committing him to that major for his entire college career, or if selecting a certain major was going to have an impact on his admission decision, which I thought was interesting. So more than likely that was a data gathering question. I do not know if that is ultimately going to lead to an admissions decision. But I think for the higher education professionals or those who oversee admissions, that's probably something that we need to focus on and highlight when we are conveying our message to prospective students to add a little bit more transparency to the process itself. One of my favorite questions was when the students were asked if any of their top schools suddenly dropped to the bottom of their list because of their experience with the admissions process. And this was interesting. The feedback was great because you had the students start to realize going to college and applying for college is very different than the idea of talking about college as a high school student. And so what I mean by that is one student was talking about her dream school was NYU. She has family who lives in New York. She loves the idea of living in New York herself, and she was set. And what she wanted to do was study environmental science, and NYU offered that program. But what she said is that she had trouble navigating the school's website and finding that program, and also finding sort of lateral options. And what I mean by that is she was looking at environmental science and potentially outlets such as marine biology and oceanography. With NYU, while they did offer an environmental science program through her eyes, the lateral options were more about urban planning and not really what she was looking for. And so she started to have that realization that, yeah, this is my dream school, but with what I want to study, it's not feasible and I really need to start considering other options. Now, to the prospective students, pay attention to this feedback. She was looking for lateral options and what she could really pull from her major. And so if you're looking at a major in particular, and if you're looking at a very broad major like the business or the psychology, what more do you want from that? What do you want to do? Do you want to go into neuropsychology? Do you want to go into counseling? Those are the questions you need to start to ask yourself. You don't have to have a final decision, but just kind of educate yourself on what a lot of these alternative paths are within these majors, and you can start to hone in on what your prospective schools offer you through those majors. Another student said she was ready to go to a small school that really resembled her current high school. She liked the idea of a small class population, really getting to know everyone and just feeling like she was at home. But as she went through the process, she started to realize that she really wanted a large research institution and all of the resources that would bring. And she said that's not, good or bad one way or the other. It's just that her priorities changed, whereas some of her friends, the priorities did not. And it was just through the process that she changed it as an individual. And there was another student who echoed that sentiment, that he thought he wanted to go to the Ivy Leagues, and his drive was to get accepted into the Ivy Leagues. But as he started to go through the process, he realized, I just want to say that I can get into the Ivy Leagues and I want to prove that to everyone, but I have a bunch of other schools that really resonate more strongly with what I'm looking for. And so that's sort of an interesting progression that a lot of students experience as they go through the admissions process. There was a question that asked about what is something that schools do that you think is a little trendy or salesy that you liked or you did not like, and if you work in higher education in admissions or recruitment, you know that this is what we do. And so one student said, I love getting free stuff. I love getting the posters, I love getting the t-shirts. I don't like getting the postcards though that have all of the information that I've already read on the website. And I hear you. I totally hear you. However, my rebuttal to that is you're the kind of student who is looking for that information though. There are a lot of students who have to repeatedly see that information because when they're first exposed to it, they may not be thinking about that school and what that school has to offer, or they may not even be considering higher education at all. And so the timing is really what's important. So maybe they didn't even visit the website and then a mailer came through and then they saw those bulleted points of what that school has to offer. Or maybe they realized, I don't want to go to this school, but it's getting late in my decision process. School's going to start soon, so let me pick up this postcard on the counter and okay, maybe I'll consider what this school has. The environmental science major did add that she also is not a fan of the mailers and that she felt it was a waste of paper. So she is very true to what she wants to study. So I give her all the credit for that. There was another student who said the emails he preferred over texting. And he wanted to keep his texting separate from the college admissions process. So what we are seeing, and prospective students and families of prospective students, this is what's happening. You are inundated with emails from all sorts of schools, all sorts of departments within schools, and all sorts of third parties associated with those schools. And it gets to be very overwhelming. There are stories of students just deleting hundreds of emails at a time or just never reading them. So while email is important, yes, what the schools are doing is looking for a way to actually get an interaction with that student. I need to get a response. I can send you an email and you may read it, but I don't know if you read it. I don't know if you really paid attention to what that was or if you're going to take action. And a lot of students have actually said they prefer to be texted because their phone is right in front of them. It's just I can send a quick text with a few words. I can answer that question and I can move on with my day. So it's a bit of a balance. There are a lot of students who don't want the texting and there are a lot of students who prefer the texting, and the schools can't really tailor it to what each individual student wants. So you're just going to get a mess of text messages and emails, and the reality is just trying to sort through all of those for what you're really looking for. And I wish there could be an alternative to that. I wish there could be a way to clean it up. So my advice to you as a student, just make sure you're at least looking at the subject of what those emails are and maybe setting up folders. So if there are schools you are considering, put those emails in that folder so you know if you want to revisit those emails, you know exactly where they are. So that was when they were talking about communication. And when they had asked one of the final questions, it was, what sort of thing did you want admissions departments to hear that they could change? What was good, what was bad? And what was consistent from these students is they talked about the test optional. And so what has happened as a result of COVID is that a lot of schools have dropped the requirement of submitting test scores from the SAT and the ACT. And I feel for them. I totally hear what the students are saying, because what a lot of these policies are, they say the scores are optional. You can submit them and they can help you, but they won't hurt you. And some schools will require them. And so it's really kind of hazy of, so if I have a bad score and it won't hurt me, are you sure that's not going to impact the admissions decision? And should I just submit it anyway? And in fact, one student said, I just submitted my test scores to every school I applied to. And I think as we start to see the results of what that policy has done, there are a lot of schools who are researching what the result is. So when you have incoming students who did not submit test scores, are they equally as successful in the college environment as those who had submitted test scores? As we start to see more long-term research with that, we are seeing some preliminary data that there really isn't too much of a difference. then we may start to see a more solidified policy with more schools. I don't know how that will impact the standardized testing industry or if students will continue to take those tests, but that will be up for discussion for a few more years. So I think this was great feedback. I think the students were honest. I loved it. I loved that they knew what they were looking for, and not everyone does. And so that was one thing that I wondered about with the panel. And I think for the sake of the questions, yes, you wanted students who are going to provide thoughtful answers. But there are also so many students who are just considering college for the first time. They have no idea what they want to major in. They have no idea where they want to go, and they have no idea how they're going to pay for that. So it takes a lot of self-education, really. Go search, go look at schools, never rule anything out. Don't rule out any possibilities. Don't rule out any schools, and just really ask the questions that are in your mind that you're too afraid to ask. And I think as higher education professionals, this was solid feedback. Are there some things we can change? On a large scale, probably not, but on a smaller scale, yes. For example, one of the students said, it just felt great to be face-to-face with a staff member of one of those schools. Sure, you can send an email, but she said to us as professionals, if you have a chance to just set up a Zoom meeting with a prospective student, please take the time to do that because it makes a huge difference. So it was great feedback. It was a great webinar. It was amazing. And with that, don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to continue to see videos and feedback like this and book reviews and talking about current events and also strategies to be a successful student. And if you like this video, hit the like button. And as always, I will see you in the next one.